Peace, family. Y'all know who it is. It's Dr. Picard K. Lumumba back once again, the progenitor of LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we could gain competitive advantage by always betting on Black. Once again, family, in conjunction with Bequaline Network, the Pan African social media extraordinary home, of course, of Africans in the news and information. We're here once again with an evocative show. I think an evocative question. I already see some comments in the comment section. So definitely hope you all could tap in and be part of the conversation. And so we know we're getting into the what's known as the American holiday season and holiday coming up. Some would call it a holiday. I call it Hell Day. On this coming Thursday is what is known as Thanksgiving. As many of you know, Thanksgiving is celebrated every fourth Thursday of November. And for many people, Thanksgiving simply means turkey, football, and of course, family. But we're going to do a bit of a deeper dive, and particularly talking about leaning on some of the work of course, Dr. Carter G. Woodson's concept of men's education in terms of. So, family, first off, let's get it started by asking this question. Put a one in the chat if, as a child, at home or in school, you learned the true history of Thanksgiving. So, put a one in the chat if you learned the true history of Thanksgiving. Put a two in the chat if you learned what we would call the Disney version of course, Thanksgiving. So once again, family, if when you were a child, if you learned the true history of Thanksgiving, put a one in the chat. And if you learned the Disney version of Thanksgiving, put a two in the chat, just referring, of course, to your childhood. And so somebody put two. Right. So, and we're going to tap into this, why this is important. I wrote an article, family, on Medium. If you look at the in the description, Martyr Machine, appreciate you brother tapping in. OHIO, you know y'all gonna get that smoke this weekend, and as you always know, is Jordan over LeBron every day of the week, right? But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna peruse the article that I wrote last year regarding this very question: should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? And just to put this out here, in no way am I arguing or stating that you should not spend time with your family. I see the comment. There's in no way am I making an argument that you should not spend time with your family, that you should not fellowship on Thanksgiving, right? I'm not making an argument in any way, say, perform. I'm not the type of individual say you should sit up in your house and be mad at the world, right? If you are lucky enough to have a day off of work, I think you should take advantage of that. And of course, spend time to fellowship with family and friends. But I think it's also important that when we talk about having an African-centered frame of reference, that we're not socializing and educating our children to have a worldview that is reminiscent or tantamount to that of our historical and even contemporary oppressors. So we're going to talk about a little bit about, of course, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the concept of miseducation, and then, of course, even Dr. Amos Wilson, that many of you are familiar with. When we talk about, African-centered, Pan-Africanist, nationalist scholarship, and what he argues is, of course, the falsification of African consciousness. So once again, family, if you're watching, of course, Lumumba Speaks and Bequaline Network. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and share. Like, subscribe, and share. Make sure you comment as well, as many of you all are doing. And family, look, we're on the road to 10K. So we need 10K at Lumumba Speaks. We need, of course, 200K at Bequaline Network. Other issue, family, we have our podcast up on Spotify. So if you're on Spotify, once again, if you are on Spotify, make sure you go on to Spotify, Lumumba Speaks, follow us on Lumumba Speaks. The Lumumba Speaks podcast is up and running on Spotify, family. So want to make sure that you all do that. Make sure you follow us on Spotify as well, on Twitter, and of course on all other social media platforms. So family, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a brief perusal of the article I wrote last year, and then we're going to get the conversation started. As you all know, the link is in the description. The link will be in the chat momentarily. And I see some of the comments. Sister Monique says, no, we should not celebrating Thanksgiving. Marcus Wheeler says, shouldn't be celebrating any of these fake holidays. So I definitely hope you could tap in and be part of the conversation. Share with us, what do you mean by fake holidays, and why do you think we should not be celebrating any holidays of any kind? So definitely want you to tap in. The families, you all know, to tap in to be part of the conversation. You do not have to cam up. Keyword, you do not have to cam up. And you can use a pseudonym if you want to protect your identity when you're part of this conversation. So just want to make you all aware of that before, of course, we get the conversation started. So Okay, here we go. So, should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? I wrote this article last year. So I say when discussing the historical and contemporary struggles Black people face in America, most highlight the colorful and evocative issues such as extrajudicial violence, the fight for suffrage, the Holocaust of enslavement, and Jim Crowism, to name a few. Moreover, when discussing the Holocaust of enslavement, the focus typically centers on the brutal and inhumane treatment enslaved Africans and their descendants suffered while providing unremunerated work in perpetuity. However, there is a lack of focus by lay peoples regarding the social cultural process that infleshed enslavement, e.g., disafricanization was sought to not only dehumanize enslaved Africans and their descendants, but also deculturalize them through what is known as contrived amnesia. Dr. Ali Missouri, as of course we've referenced ad nauseum here on, of course, this podcast. In his seminal text, The Africans of Triple Heritage, shared the process of dis-Africanization, the removal of personal identity, the removal of collective identity, removal of collective pride, removal of religious beliefs, and of course, linguistic removal as well. This process created, according to Dr. W.B. Du Bois, double consciousness, right? This concept of who am I? What, after all, am I? Am I an American? Am I Negro? Can I be both? This question is pertinent today as Black people tend to struggle to define identity. For example, are Black people simply poor imitations of whites in which we seek to emulate the ideas and customs of our oppressors while concomitantly adopting a white nationalist worldview that is antithetical to our existence? Or do we embrace our African roots with the revolutionary fervor of our ancestors who violently resisted the indignities of chattel enslavement? If so, what do holidays such as Thanksgiving have to do with it, right? And when we talk about this concept of Black people being poor imitations of whites, I'm referencing the work of E. Franklin Frazier. E. Franklin Frazier was a sociologist. He was a mentee of W.B. Du Bois, and his work promoted this concept of integrationalism and argued that Black people had literally lost all aspects of their native culture, indigenous culture, and were poor imitations of whites. Dr. Janice E. Hale Benson speaks to this issue in her canonical treatise, Black Children of Roots, Culture, and Learning Styles. Great book, family. Was written in 1982, still relevant today. If you have children, young children, or you're interested in even mentoring children, working in a Saturday school, also known as a Juma Mosi Shule, or even just in a community, great book to read, Black Children of Roots, Culture, and Learning Styles. She opines that holidays are political, particularly as they affect the history of Black people, of Black and other oppressed people in America. For example, when discussing Thanksgiving, Hale Benson urges that it should not be a celebration of the point of view of the Pilgrims. It will be an exploration of the situation of Native Americans, Afro Americans, and European colonizers. I argue that Dr. Hale Benson is right. So we should be mindful as we gather to break bread and fellowship with family and friends that we teach our youth the truth, hard history, rather than the mythological fairy tales created by oppressors who romanticize white genocidal violence and pedestalize whiteness as the locus of civil society that infers that non-white peoples were devoid of history, culture, and civilization prior to the colonization by Europeans. So that's the article I wrote on Medium Family last year, asking this very question. So I'm going to put the link in the chat. Want you all to tap in, let me know your thoughts on, of course, this topic. Should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? So once again, family, the link is in the description, the link's in the chat. Make sure you tap in and be part of the conversation this evening. Definitely want to hear what you all have to say about this issue. Once again, should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? So tap in, family, be part of the conversation. Once again, as I always stated before, you do not have to cam up, and you can use a pseudonym to be part of the conversation. Once again, the question we're asking here this evening on Lumumba Speaks and of course Beacon Network is, should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? Should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? Should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving, family? So tap in, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, make sure you share and comment. You're watching, of course, LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative in which we believe we can gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. And, of course, Beacon Network, the Pan-African social media extraordinaire and the home of African-centered news and information. And, of course, you're watching platform, and we're discussing, I think, a conversation that needs to be had. I know, once again, oftentimes, unfortunately, coming up as a youngster, we were not taught the true history regarding Thanksgiving. We know for many Native Americans or Indigenous Americans, it's considered a national day of mourning, right? And so I think it's something that we need to be cognizant of when we talk about sharing teaching hard history to our children, right? We don't want our children to be mere um, puppets and poor imitations of whites. And so, in order to do that, I think it's imperative that we have those courageous conversations. Let's see. Snapshot Review says, according to Google, Thanksgiving is a national holiday celebrated in the United States, Canada, and other countries to give thanks for the year's harvest and blessings. If this is the case, I don't see why not, but there is more to the story. Absolutely, there's more to the story. So we talk about the Disneyfication of history, right? The sanitizing of history. That would be an example of the sanitizing or Disneyfication of history. And so we want to make sure that we are not, of course, teaching our children to be poor imitations of whites. I know growing up when I was a child, we never were taught the true history of Thanksgiving. I can recall being given, the one of the mill stories of Native Americans and the Pilgrims that came together and had dinner. I remember, and then them having us make a actual miniature pumpkin pie in school, in class. But we know there's much more to the story, and so I think this is a chance for us to really unpack and engage what truly took place, but also ask the question, should we celebrate Thanksgiving? So once again, this isn't a question in which I'm arguing that we should not gather with our family during, of course, having a rest from work. But the question is, should we? Should we actually embrace the concept and idea, excuse me, of the holiday in terms of really giving thanks for taking the land from, of course, the indigenous peoples that lived here. And of course, that goes into the white nationalist and white Christian nationalist concept of manifest destiny and Norman yoke. So once again, family, the link is in the description. The link is in the chat. Tap in, be part of the conversation. You're watching LaMumbaspeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe you could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. And of course, Beacon Line Network, the Pan-African social media extraordinaire and the home of African Center news and information. Make sure you tap in and be part of the conversation, family. Definitely want to hear what you all have to say. So 1621, yes. So the first African Americans came 1619. Actually, we could even argue in the 1500s, but then they were brought to America and then taken back to the Caribbean. But 1619, yes. So 1619, Jamestown, Virginia, Africans were brought to America. And so 1621, yes, there were Africans in America at that time. So once again, family, tap in, be part of the conversation. Definitely want to hear what you all have to say. We're very close to being able to once again monetize the channel, so we definitely need as much, of course, support as possible. And one of the ways you can support is by being part of the broadcast. So once again, family, should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? That is the question that we're asking, and we want to hear from you all regarding your thoughts on should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving. And of course, we can open up the conversation and really even do a deeper dive into E. Franklin Frazier's work and ask the question, are Black people simply poor imitations of white? So that's something I could put in the chat as well, and we can unpack that as well. And this is something you can argue is global, like the Caribbean, United States, even on the continent, right? This concept of pseudo benignity by Europeans in which they were enslaving and colonizing us to help us, right? We know that's not the case, but that's the argument that oftentimes is made. And so, we can unpack that and ask that question as well. But once again, family, link is in the description, link is in the chat. Once again, you do not have to cam up. Keyword, you do not have to cam up to be part of this conversation. And you can, keyword, you can use a pseudonym if you want to protect your identity, maintain your anonymity. Have no problem with that whatsoever. So once again, family, tap in, be part of the conversation. Want to hear from you all. Should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? As I said it before, Sister Monique, I saw you stated no. Tap in, be part of the convo. Want to hear from you. And then Brother Wheeler, Marcus Wheeler, stated that you shouldn't be celebrating any of these fake holidays. And so, once again, I want to hear from you in terms of, excuse me, why do you believe this make the argument that these holidays are fake? And then, of course, what would be the replacement? We know one of the things I believe that Elijah Muhammad got right was he makes the argument that if you're going to tell people not to emulate whites, you need to give them an alternative, right? And so definitely want to hear from you in terms of what would be the alternative. If you're not celebrating Thanksgiving, what are we celebrating? If you're not celebrating Christmas, what are we celebrating? So on and so forth. So make sure you tap in, be part of the combo. Once again, you do not have to cam up. Keyword, you do not have to cam up to be part of the conversation. And you can use a pseudonym for your name if you want to protect your identity. So tap in, family, be part of the conversation. Once again, the question is, should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? Keyword, family, should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? Once again, family, tap in, be part of the conversation. I want to hear from you all. Just looking forward to a great conversation this Tuesday evening. We know we are 5 days from the game, and by the game, we're talking about the Ohio State Buckeyes taking on the University of Michigan. I said it right, Michigan, right? We got no love for the Wolverines. Should be, we hope that we dominate. The goal is to dominate anytime you go out there on the field. And so the goal is to dominate. We know that we've had a 3-game losing streak, but the goal is, of course, to get back. And as you all know, if you look at the channel, we have a number of different hype videos that we've uploaded that will be premiering throughout the week to get us ready for the game. And it's known as the game for a reason. It's considered to be the biggest rivalry in all of sports. And we know that the only rivalry in college football that I'm aware of that began due to an actual war. And that was, of course, a war, the Battle of Toledo. And we know who won that battle. It was the great state of Ohio, and that's why Toledo is, of course, in Ohio today. So someone puts why not. So tap in, someone, be part of the conversation, and let's do a deeper dive into why this is a question that's even being asked. So once again, someone, the link is in the description, the link is in the chat. Tap in, be part of the conversation. Let's do a deeper dive into why we're even asking this question, right? Once again, you do not have to cam up, and you are using a pseudonym, so you're more than welcome to come and be part of the conversation. But once again, diversity of thought is welcome. As you all know here at Lumumba Speaks, diversity of thought is welcome. Irrespective if you're on the left, you're on the right, or you're right down the middle, you can come here and be part of the conversation. Number 2, in terms of ground rules, you all know we do not allow epithets of any kind, no racial epithets, no gender epithets, no epithets regarding the person's sexuality. We believe that this is a space of Black empowerment. We believe in the 3 N's of Black power. That is, of course, self-respect, self-defense, and, of course, self-determination. And so we don't engage in epithets of any kind. Number 3, facts over feelings. If you disagree with someone, we want you to attack the argument, not the person. No ad hominems. We are adults, and we are adults here, and we're seeking to have an intellectual, of course, conversation. And so once again, if you disagree with someone, we want you to attack the argument, family, the argument, not the person. And then last but not least, no fundamentally false statements. You can have an opinion, but if you make a claim that is patently false, for example, if you were to state that LeBron James was the GOAT because Michael Jordan only won 2 championships, that's a patently false statement. MJ won 6. So then, of course, I'm gonna have to act like I'm the Sandman at Showtime at the Apollo. And then last but not least, family, as you all know, our goal here at Lumumba Speaks and Beacon Line Network is needed to exonerate or vilify, but simply challenge conventional wisdom and re-examine what has previously been accepted as fact. So, snapshot reviews, what's the word, brother?
Doing you right?
I'm doing quite all right. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Obviously, I've got a limited understanding of Thanksgiving, only what I've seen on TV and things like that. But I don't know. I think if the textbook sort of definition of it, like giving thanks to like the year's harvest and your blessings for the year, is what it is, then I don't see any problem with it. But obviously, there's a lot of things happen to the indigenous people in America as a result of like the European settlers and things like that. So I don't know. It just kind of depends on where you are with it. I think I see quite a lot of African Americans these days, really being proud of being American and taking, pride in that. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what they want to do. So if you are sort of patriotic, I guess, to where you live, or I don't know. I don't think we can really police whether they should or they shouldn't really. What do you think? I'm assuming you don't celebrate it.
Yeah, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving, and I taught my children not to do so as well.
Okay.
I mean, and it's like, I mean, here's the thing, and I remember having this conversation with my children, and
Yeah.
I told them when I was in middle school, and there was a gentleman who was a Native American. He was an Indigenous American, Indian, whatever term is applicable. And I asked him, I said, "Do you celebrate Thanksgiving?" And he said to me, "Do you celebrate the Carnival cruise ride that your people took to get here?" And of course, he was referring to the Middle Passage.
Yeah. Well, that's not really marked as a national holiday, is it? Or
It's not, but I understood where he was coming from.
yeah, yeah. So if someone was like a work colleague or someone invited you over for dinner on that day, you just say no.
Yeah, I would decline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would decline, literally. Matter of fact, I had hurt my knee at work, and so I had to go see the physical therapist this morning. And the physical therapist said, "Hey, Bakari, what are you and your kids doing for Thanksgiving?" I said, "I don't celebrate Thanksgiving."
Hmm.
Same thing. They say Christmas. I said, "We don't celebrate Christmas. We celebrate Kwanzaa." How Eurocentric of you, right?
Hmm.
So, but I think it's important once again that when we gather, that we're having those hard conversations. We're teaching our children hard history, so that we're not manipulated by the power structure into, of course, engaging in acts or even having a position that is antithetical to our very existence.
And what do you think the thought is amongst most African Americans? Is it a 50-50 split on whether they celebrate or not? Or do you think most go in for it? Like,
I would argue I couldn't say. I mean, well, we're about 50 million people, right? And we know the
yeah.
African American community, we aren't monolithic. But what I will say is that for so I've been around the country, and I would argue most. But I can't say most. I would say there's a sizable amount that do not take celebrate Thanksgiving. There are a sizable amount that says, "Listen, we just want to get together and we're going to fellowship with family." But this concept of Thanksgiving, no, right? We're not going because the concept of Thanksgiving came from white folk slaughtering the Native Americans, taking their land, and then giving thanks for God for being able to take the land, develop a fruitful harvest, and then have dinner.
Mm.
I mean, this is literally what happened. I've
Yeah.
read the literature.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and part of the things we talk about in Dr. Janice Hale Benson, her book Black Children, Their Roots, Culture, and Learning Styles, when she talks about holidays being political, we also talk about historiography being political. Historiography, family, as you all know, is the writing of history. And so, oftentimes, when we talk about textbooks, children's books, the writing of the history is what political in nature as well. But when you do a deeper dive, you actually find out the truth. I'll give you an example. Growing up, we typically are taught Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, right? Christopher Columbus discovered the New World. When you go to college, if you have the privilege of going to college, you then learn that no, he was lost. He thought he was in India, and he didn't discover anything because people were already here,
Mm.
right? So once again, we talk about but if you take on that mindset, you would then oftentimes believe that European people were responsible for circumnavigating the globe and bringing to non-white people, non-Europeans, what's known as civilization.
Yeah.
Right. So there are a number of biases in those narratives. And that's why I think it's important that we have these conversations and we're teaching our children true history because what happened is the miseducation plays a role, like Dr. Carter G. Woodson stated, to where we're learning to glorify and pedestalize everyone else's history, heritage, and culture, and not our own. And we typically learn as a result, as a derivative, to what? Hate ourselves.
Mm.
Absolutely. So, Sister Monique, I see you said thank you. Tap in, be part of the conversation. The links in the description, links in the chat. This is of the utmost importance because typically we don't have a lot of sisters who tap in, right? We don't have a lot of sisters who tap in, but definitely would love to hear your voice on this evening. Um, Snapshot reviews. Any thoughts?
Well, it's really up against it, aren't you? Because I get the sense that after Christmas, Thanksgiving is probably the biggest holiday season in the States, right?
I would presume so, maybe. But I
Yeah,
mean, but here's the thing: in America, a lot of the holidays are just capitalistic. So Fourth of July, capitalistic. You also go out buy a bunch of pork, barbecue, light
yeah,
firecrackers.
yeah,
Thanksgiving, you know, shopping. Christmas, Halloween is capitalistic, right? You're buying outfits and everything like that. Labor Day, you're supposed to barbecue as well. Um, Valentine's Day, capitalistic in nature. Right. So a lot of the holidays in America are really just ways to have
yeah.
people buy things.
So does that mean that people aren't really taking it to heart then?
No,
They're
I
not
think there are
really.
people who really take it to heart, but I think when we talk about, this concept of just blindly following, this concept
Mm,
of group think, right? You just kind of go along with like for example, I think Tommy in the movie Men in Black, Will Smith was talking to Tommy Lee, and he said, "Why such secrecy about aliens?" He said, "Well, because a person is smart, people are dumb." So groupthink plays a role, and people just say, "Hey, I'm just going to go for whatever is the norm," what the majority of people are doing.
yeah. Well, some villains have got to tell a story to paint themselves as the heroes, don't they?
This is true. I mean, we know that the African proverb states what until the lion tells his tale, the story of the hunt will always glorify the hunter.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I don't really have much more to add to it, really. I think so obviously it's Thanksgiving. When is that? Is that this week? Is it?
Yes, it's every fourth Thursday in November.
Okay. And then you have, yeah, you're right. And then the next day is Black Friday, isn't it?
Black Friday, right? And that's
Yeah,
shopping. People are shopping crazy, right? So a lot of these holidays, really, to be quite honest with you, are capitalistic in nature, and the goal is to have people become consumers rather than producers.
yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Should black people and in terms of like the indigenous communities in the States, like what's the relationship like between them and African Americans?
That's not something I can really speak to.
Okay.
And maybe in some communities there's a relationship, and others there's not. We know that
Okay.
the five so-called civilized tribes, as they call them, civilized nations, they did play a role in enslaving black people.
So so then so then black people don't really have any allegiance to anything to do with them then really, or any, or is it just acknowledging what hardships befell another group?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't even argue that. For me, is acknowledging European colonialism, imperialism, and genocide, and that's not something I want to celebrate.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
And then so then what do you sort of all right, because we can point that out and highlight it obviously, but then what do you propose is done, or what do you think is an appropriate sort of, I don't know, countermeasure to not doing it, or how should the day be spent if not, you
Well,
know?
as I said, I think it's simply important that we have some courageous conversations where we discuss hard history, and so that we're not misled as to what actually took place, right? Part of
Yeah,
the matrix, when we talk about tapping out of the matrix or unplugging from the matrix, is realizing that you've been misled, that you've been bamboozled, you've been run amok, as Malcolm stated so eloquently decades ago, right? So I think that's part of the issue. I'm not telling, I'm going to go and spend time with family and friends and so on and so forth, but there is an understanding that we're not celebrating Thanksgiving. We're simply taking
yeah,
this time since we're off of work to fellowship.
yeah. Hmm. Okay, well, I don't really have anything else I can add to this at the moment. I just
Okay, okay. So
learning, just
Monique,
learning about it really.
I understood. Sister Monique, I hope you could tap in and be part of the conversation. And also, very quickly, I do know. So last month, October is Black History Month in the UK, correct?
Yes, that's right. It
Yeah,
is.
very good.
Yeah, October is, yeah.
Okay.
But like lately, it's just not really got the coverage that it used to get. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what that's about really, but used to see it a lot more. Like, it used to be a lot more prominent, and there'd be a lot more things to do when I was younger. But lately, maybe it's just me, but it's just off the radar. Really, it's just under the radar.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
Okay.
yeah.
Got you. Okay. So yeah, Sister Monique, tap in. The other brother, you commented, Brother Wheeler, if you're still there, you can tap in as well on family. I'm gonna put the link to, of course, our podcast on Spotify. So make sure you go on to Spotify and make sure you follow us on Spotify. Lumumba Speaks podcast on Spotify. So let me ask you this question, Brother Snapshot, before you step out. All Black people simply poor imitations of white.
I'd use a word, but I don't think you allow it on your channel, so I won't. But I say lately, in the last like 10 years or so, I have definitely seen a shift in mentality amongst some black people, where we've got black women who, model European standards of beauty. So you could say, this whole black Barbie type movement and stuff like that, you could say that's a cheap imitation right there.
Oh,
You can
so wait.
see
When you
that.
say Black Barbie, what?
I say not
So
like
you?
black Barbie, but what I mean is like, like the typical sort of blonde lace front
Oh,
wig
got you. Okay,
type look. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's like that's not you can't tell me like you're walking around that and you'll call yourself an African queen. I don't see it. Like, you're trying to imitate, and at the same time, these are the same people that will say that when they see white girls getting tans, oh, they want to be us, when you're actually walking around looking like you want to be them. So
right.
no, man. I think everyone wants to be something they're not, don't they? Well, not everyone, but a large amount of people want to be something that they're not. That's just psychology, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
it seems that way.
yeah, but also, sometimes like you just think to yourself, well, what do we have to show them that this side is the right side to be on? Like,
Right,
you have to be able to, you've got to be able to like show like, what it is that your side stands for, what W's your side is putting up on the board to, keep people on side. But at the same time, you can't save everyone.
understood. And
And
Kayamba, tap in, be part of the conversation. Sister Trescott, need you to tap in as well. You in the comments, tap in, be part of the convo. Go right ahead, but Snapshot.
yeah, but most people just wanna live, don't they? They just wanna go on holiday a couple of times a year. They wanna, enjoy a concert every now and then. They just want. They're not really on the whole liberation thing or the empowerment movement. They just wanna live for themselves. I think most people do, and they're not really aware of the wider or the bigger picture on certain things, and that's cool to them.
Right.
But what made you think about the question cheap imitations of white people?
Well, E. Franklin Frazier, the sociologist E. Franklin Frazier, he made that argument, um, dispelling the strengths of African cultural attention and African American culture. And so that's why I posed that question.
Hmm. What do you see on the data? Well, on an average, do
I,
you
I,
think?
I would say that I do see examples of some of our people being cheap imitations of whites.
Hmm.
And I can recall we really go back maybe 20 some years when they were, there was a proliferation of reality TV shows. And Paris Hilton had a reality TV show. And I think she's the heiress to the Hilton Hotel Empire.
Yeah.
And she had like a really small chihuahua. And she would dress a chihuahua up and take it everywhere with her. And then we started seeing black women doing that.
Hmm.
Right. So I think that would be an example of
Yeah.
being imitation. But if we could talk about even culturally in terms of the naming of children. You know, these children, they typically try to give, some people tend to give children as many white sounding and European names as possible. And we find this everywhere: the continent, the Caribbean, even the United States, even in Europe. We talked about beauty standards of
Now,
religion. We tend to find it in a manner that is multifaceted.
a lot of them will say that they don't want their child to be discriminated against on job applications or things like that if they have a name that doesn't sound
Hmm.
from a certain demographic.
Right.
And you know, to them, I guess they think they're playing the game, or they know what the system is, so they're just trying to navigate around it so that their child can have the best sort of, I don't know, opportunity or chance of getting through.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that also promotes self-hatred. It also
Of
promotes that
course,
you're not good enough to do well by being yourself.
of
So
course.
it promotes this concept of self-abnegation, that if you distance yourself from who you are, then
Hmm.
you will be rewarded in society. And
Yeah,
that speaks
yeah,
a lot about the society that you're living in. That if you actually distance yourself from who you are, you would then be rewarded,
yeah.
particularly socioeconomically.
And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. A lot of people just don't have the eye on the bigger picture of it. Like, you
Right.
know, what does this actually implement? What are you telling your child subconsciously? You know, it's yeah, it can be a little bit depressing. But I know we picked on the women a lot, but do you see any examples of men? Sort of.
Absolutely. We could get the same examples.
Okay.
We talk about beauty standards. Right. There was a time where black men were conking their hair.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That we see a lot of black men nowadays even supporting black women engaging in European beauty standards. We see black men nowadays, same thing in terms of from a cultural standpoint, from a religious standpoint. So yeah, I mean, a great example would be what we tend to find in the manosphere, right? Even the black manosphere tends to be extremely Eurocentric.
Hmm. I don't know if that's still a thing anymore, is it?
Yeah, I was just on someone's podcast like 3 weeks ago,
Oh, okay.
and the guy was talking about, well, you know, and you see in Europe, they was he made the statement that the reason why America's gone to hell in a handbasket, we know this is what everyone's saying nowadays, is because women have the right to vote. And I said, well, that's not something that we find in traditional African societies, and in the medieval Africa, women had the right to vote, right? And his statement was, and that's why they were colonized by Europeans. That
Wow.
was his retort. So we even find in the manosphere a great example. The preeminent example would be Kevin Samuels, right? Where he stated, hey, you know, the woman said, well, I used to work in corporate America, but I quit because, you know, they want to straighten our hair and get relaxers. And
Yeah.
he's like, well, that's what they want. Then you need to just do it. They won, so you need to do what they say.
Yeah. I heard him say black men should cut off their dreadlocks.
Right. So
Yeah.
you see that this Eurocentrism, right? This concept of seeking to capitulate, this self-loathing, right?
Mm.
Seeking to be poor imitations of whites, right? I recall Kevin Samuels even stating that if you're going to date out, there are certain African American cultural customs that you need to practice doing away with if you're going to date out.
Yeah. And
Right.
you know,
So once
yeah,
again, we see this self-loathing, this almost shame of being who and what you are.
yeah. It's like you mentioned the Matrix earlier. It's like that guy Cypher. Some people just want to go back to sleep. Don't want to
Right.
remember anything.
They don't
Just
remember
give me
anything.
that pill. I don't care. Just make sure I don't remember anything. And they'll
Right.
just go into it. It's sad, man, but like, yeah, I don't know what you could really do about it, really.
Yeah. So just something to, of course, be aware of.
What do you think is the best sort of remedy for that, or the best sort of counter when you come up against people like that are just so blindly ignorant in what they're saying?
Yeah. Well, what I try to focus.
They actually believe what they say, don't they?
Yeah, what I try to focus on is providing historical examples, right? That can be substantiated, right? The issue here is when you're dealing with individuals like that, facts don't tend to matter, right?
Mm.
So that's the unfortunate part. I've been in part of several conversations where I'm making claims. I'm saying you could verify these things, and they're like, well, I don't care. I'm just going to say what I say, believe what I believe.
Mm.
And so we see that that's that level of, unfortunately, anti-intellectualism that we tend to find is omnipresent amongst not only our people but even Western society to a greater extent as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So once again, family, if you're watching, this is you're watching Lumumba Speaks here on YouTube and of course Spotify. Black Empowerment Initiative, where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. And of course, Beacon Network, the Pan African social media extraordinaire in the home of Africans in the news and information. Having a great conversation this evening where we're asking the question, should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? I see a number of individuals, of course, are in the chat. You've made some comments. Tap in, be part of the conversation. The link is in the description. The link is in the chat. Tap in, be part of the convo. You do not have to come up to be part of the conversation, and you can keyword you can use a pseudonym to be part of the convo if you want to protect your identity. Snapshot reviews. Any other thoughts?
No, not for now. I'm just going to carry on listening. But yeah, it's good to talk to you again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right,
Absolutely.
take care. Have a good show.
You too. So once again, family, tap in, be part of the conversation. Sister Monique, Brother Rahima, hope to hear from you regarding evocative question. Sure, it may elicit emotion, a lot of emotion for some people, but want to hear from you all. Keyword should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? So tap in, family, be part of the convo. Want to hear what you all have to say about this particular issue. Once again, should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? So want to hear from you all on this evening. Once again, if you're watching, make sure you hit the subscribe and the like button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Make sure you hit the notification bell as well for future videos. And make sure you share and comment, right? We want to break the algorithm. We have some goals here and want to hear what you all have to say this evening on this topic. Of course, should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? And of course, we can even open this conversation up to, of course, let's see, it says Hollywood plays a big part, especially in the 21st century. So once again, sister, tap in. You're commenting, but we want you to tap in and be part of the convo, right? You're commenting, but be part of the convo here this evening on the Movement Speaks and, of course, the Qualan Network, right? So once again, the link is in the description. The link's in the chat. Tap in, be part of the conversation. I'm very interested to hear what you all have to say about this issue, right? I think it's something that we need to discuss as a number of things that we talk about. I think we've even done a show on the call titled "The 4th of July," where we discussed that. Okay, of course, as Frederick Douglass stated, we weren't free on July 4th, 1776, and so there was really no sense of us celebrating the 4th of July. I can even recall one Paul Laurence Dunbar, the world's first world-renowned African-American poet and novelist. As you all know, Paul Laurence Dunbar was from, of course, my hometown, Dayton, Ohio. Shout out to the 937, the Gem City, but we always bet on Black. And so even Paul Laurence Dunbar, he actually created Dayton, Ohio's first African-American newspaper, a Black newspaper, the Dayton Tatler. And even in that, so we're talking about 100 years ago, he stated, he questioned why Black people still celebrated Independence Day when we, of course, did not have independence. And even as Dr. Annie Edwards stated on our previous show, he said, are you a freedom-loving American? She said, the real question is, am I a freedom-having American, right? So once again, family, link is in the description, link is in the chat. I know the brother stated, or sister, I don't want to misgender you, they said about to tap in. Definitely want to hear from you all this evening regarding the question, keyword should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? And of course, we're not arguing that you should be recluse during the holiday season, but just being cognizant of what truly the history of these holidays. And then, of course, as a result, making sure that, particularly with young people, our children, the generation coming up, that we share with them the importance of knowing true history. Because this could go a lot of ways. We even see in Texas where they're making claims that Africans, enslaved Africans, came here as migrant workers. This is actually in the textbooks, right? So it's important that we make sure that we do not sanitize the history and we know the truth about what took place, what happened, and what transpired. So definitely want to hear from you all, family. Tap in, be part of the conversation here at Lumumba Speaks and Bequalon Network. So once again, family, you do not have to cam up to be part of the conversation. And you can, keyword you can, use a pseudonym. And if you're watching on Twitter, you could comment as well. Want to hear from you all. You could tap in, be part of the conversation, maybe by leaving Twitter, coming to YouTube. We want to hear from you all as well in terms of should, keyword should, Black people celebrate Thanksgiving. So definitely tap in, family. Look forward to hearing from you all sooner rather than later. If not, I'm going to have to check out. And I'd rather we're not. I think this is a great conversation that we can have this evening. And of course, we can even ask the question, are Black people simply poor imitations of whites? And of course, that was the argument that E. Franklin Frazier made and his work on, I believe, the Black family. And of course, this was countered by the work of Melville Herskowitz in his text, The Myth of the Negro's Past, where he argues that there were significant examples of African cultural retention in the culture of diaspora Africans. So once again, family, link is in the description. Link is in the chat. Tap in and be part, keyword be part of the conversation here on YouTube and of course Spotify. If not, family, we're going to tap out, check out. So once again, family, we want to give you all the chance to tap in, be part of the convo. If not, we're going to have to close the show out. So once again, we're going to wait till maybe about another 30 seconds. And if you aren't able to join, just make sure you subscribe, follow the channel, and then we can get you in on the next conversation where, of course, we're going to have part 7 tomorrow of our Pan-African Leadership Series, where we're going to be, of course, chronicling the life, legacy, and most importantly, the work of Ella Barrier. Because many of you may be unaware of this sister, Queen Mother, who, of course, was a Pan-African activist and educator. So we're going to make sure we review her history in terms of making sure that we're chronicling the life, legacies, and most importantly, the work of great Pan-Africans of the past in order to learn how to make a better world for African people in the future. One of the reasons we decided to start, of course, this series is because many people, unfortunately, are unaware of the history of Pan-Africanism and who are some of the key figures and who are some of the prominent individuals in Pan-Africanism that don't get the of course, acknowledgement that they do. So that's one of the reasons why we decided to do the Pan-African Leadership Series. We believe it's a groundbreaking and audacious, of course, series. And as many of you may be aware, the series actually, we're going to be chronicling 120 Pan-Africans, keyword 120 Pan-Africans. So it's going to probably go on for about a year and a half. Brother, what's the word?
Yeah, hello.
Yes, I hear you just fine.
Yes, peace to you, Dr. Lumumba, and hello to everybody in the chat or following us. It's Kalia. Yeah, about Thanksgiving Day. I think I know as you said, sanitized history of it. So, and I didn't have time to follow. Probably I believe you explained about it earlier on. I'll catch up and come back. But my comment was like, isn't that most of probably dominant culture what they do, or especially this, because they will sanitize history. And I'll take an example of a country that and in our conversation sometimes when we exchange, I always bring up this Rwanda, that most of my brothers, African in America, they don't really understand, or they don't know the true history of what's happened in Rwanda. It's like, with a lot of people now calling up on this vibe of Rwanda, isn't that what's most victors? Because we live in the society which is a majority, WS majority society. So they will sanitize that history so as not to put out there the negative parts or the negative contribution of them in that history. The same if when I look at Rwanda, like people know about Rwandan genocide, which with a lot of propaganda now, the Rwandan regime is like rebranding it, or like putting it out there as a Tutsi or genocide against the Tutsi. But what people don't know, they don't know, like for most people have never done research or read a lot on Rwanda. They don't know like that the current regime, contributed to that. Like the current regime, the current president of Rwanda is the one who gave the order of shooting down the plane that was carrying out two African presidents, and that's what caused the chaos and the genocide.
Yes, sir. Well, very quickly, brother, and we're going to do a show on that, but we want to make sure we stay on topic this evening.
My question wasn't that, isn't like to most people they sanitize history so as they may look good, or they can look the good side of their history instead of putting it all as it was supposed to be.
Right.
Isn't the same with Thanksgiving probably?
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's what I thought, because for me, although I've probably not really celebrate, but I've been here and I've seen many Thanksgiving come and go. I think I've read somewhere that the world history, whatever they are displaying out there to be Thanksgiving, is not really the truth about its historical, nature. So I don't know. I'm a bit perplexed about it.
Understood.
Yeah.
Once again, family, if you're watching, tap in, be part of the conversation. We're asking the question, should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? So I'm going to ask you, brother, do you believe that Black people should celebrate Thanksgiving?
If they should celebrate, I think we can. There is other. As you said, taking off, spend time with your family. Unless you know the true meaning of that celebration and how it is it a positive vibe or a positive energy to Black people or not? If it's not, then why celebrate it? That's what I think. Yes. So I don't know. I've never really planned like celebrate it, but yeah, whenever I'm off, I've worked at Thanksgiving. Many Thanksgiving I've worked because there were some times when I was in hospitality, and on those days I was given more money, so I never cared. I've worked. Yeah. Even on this Thanksgiving, most of my family will be with my in-laws, gathering and exchange, talking and eating and all that. But I don't think that it's like celebrating as our white neighbors will be doing. So
right.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Anyone else want to tap in and be part of the convo? We know that many of you are in the comments, but come be part of the conversation. That's what we want to hear from. So once again, tap in, family, be part of the conversation. If not, we're going to possibly shut things down a little early, and we don't want to do that. So definitely want to hear from you all.
And if I can ask you, Doctor, do you celebrate Thanksgiving Day?
I don't.
Why?
Well, I don't believe in celebrating European genocide and conquest.
Yeah, that definitely. Yeah.
To me, it would be nonsensical to celebrate, the practices of people who these practices are antithetical to my existence. Right? It makes no sense whatsoever. So no, I don't.
Definitely, I got you. I got it. Now I understand more. Yeah. I think you're right. You're right. You cannot celebrate, Yeah, I think that. Wow, thank you, doctor. I will.
No problem. No problem. So once again, anyone else want to tap in, be part of the conversation this evening? We're asking the question, should Black people celebrate Thanksgiving? So let me ask you this question. Do you believe that Black people on a macro level are poor imitations of whites?
On macro level?
Yes, on a macro level.
You know, for lack of a lot of informations and because with all the propaganda, because our counterparts, our the conqueror, they are the owner of big media companies. They own all the propaganda channels and all these. So they put out their propaganda. So a lot of people don't have information, and they end up, or we end up imitating a lot of things which we're not supposed to imitate. It's like a few years back, I found that in some African countries they've started even celebrating the what do they call this crazy other holiday? What is it called? Halloween. Imagine how crazy that would be. We have other historical holidays that we could be celebrating as African. The days of harvest and all that, going back to our original civilization history, like in Zimbabwe history, or Congo Kingdom history, or Kemet, Ghana Empire history. We can revive those holidays and celebrate, even all our heroes, like the Mansa Musa, the Amma, whom the Greek came to call Imhotep, or so yeah. But because of the propaganda machine and all the propaganda channels that our conqueror have and owns, we've started celebrating some other nonsensical celebrations or holidays. So
Right.
yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, very unfortunate.
And I would argue that it plays a role in terms of our
demise.
Yeah, our mindset and our goals in life.
That's true. That's true.
So if you don't have an African-centered consciousness, there's no way that you're going to be fighting for African liberation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So just something, of course, to consider. So, but once again, I appreciate you tapping in, brother. I don't think anyone else is going to tap in, so we're going to call it an evening. And I appreciate everyone who logged on. Until next time, y'all know what to do. Always bet on Black. Peace. Before you go, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you for supporting the channel. And remember, here at Lumumba Speaks, we always bet on Black. Peace.